Hello, I'm Angel Rojas with DataCorps Technology Solutions. Today is Thursday, September 16th, and this is your Threat Landscape Update. Hello, and thanks for joining us. On this week's Threat Landscape Update, we're going to be discussing one of the 10 stats that's going to keep your business safe in this very threatening cyber threat environment. And we're also going to be looking at some of the NIST password guidelines. So the National Institutes of Standards and Technology have released another update on their password guidelines. And finally, we're going to look at the remote access risks and why we secure remote access the way we do to avoid any kind of threat to your network and to your environment. So the stat that we're going to discuss today is 36% of organizations surveyed by the Verizon Data Breach Investigation Report suffered a serious data security incident like a cloud breach in 2020. And what's critical about this is a lot of times we trust the cloud to be safe. We trust our systems to be safe and to be secured, and a lot of times we think that just because somebody's watching over them, it is safe. But the reality is it's everybody's job to watch over the systems. So nearly a third of organizations surveyed suffered a serious data risk. So what this takeaway means for you and your business is a lot of times when we talk, I hear that won't happen to me, or I don't know anybody that's happened to. And unfortunately, the statistics say otherwise. They are not stacked in our favor as small business owners. Another statistic is that over 50% of the attacks are targeted at us. And the reason that those attacks are targeted at small business is because many times we are low-hanging fruit. We are easy to infiltrate. Our people are easy to trick into clicking an email, and that ends up being an issue. So it's a good idea to take these things seriously. I really encourage you to have a conversation with me if you have any concerns or questions. I'm always happy to have these conversations. It's very challenging and very expensive to remediate one of these situations, even if we're prepared for it, and even if there's backups, and even if we can get you up and running. It's still a very time-consuming effort. So anything I can do to prepare you, anything I can do to help put protection in place to hopefully thwart as many of these attacks as possible, I'm willing to do. I'm eager to do it. I'm excited to do it. This morning, I had the chance to attend the Tampa Bay Tech Forum's Cybersecurity Symposium, the 6th annual one. I got to hear some great speakers, and one of the speakers, Jeremy Rasmussen of Abacode, said that he doesn't even guarantee that he can protect networks. He very clearly says he can prepare, but really we have to take a defensive stance because it's not a matter of if, but rather a matter of when. So that really stuck to me. I've felt that way for a long time. It's really not something I can do to keep your network really safe and prevent an attack. All I can really do is, again, make you a less tasty morsel for an attacker by removing the low-hanging fruit and being prepared for when something happens. So moving on to the NIST password guidelines. The update this year, it wasn't a huge update, but again, it's a great reminder that a lot of the password policies that we've been used to in the past are just wrong. If you talk to me about passwords in the past, you know that I don't like short passwords. I don't like passwords that are complex, that use exclamation marks and all things like that. But what I do like are longer passwords and passwords that are easy to remember. So if you've had conversations with me, you'll know that many years ago we used as our admin password for one of our cloud applications, what would you do for a Klondike bar? The entire sentence with a capital W at the beginning and a question mark at the end. And while it may sound silly, it is so easy to remember that we don't even need a password manager to remember it. And it's also so long that it would take a computer a very, very long time to guess it if it were to go through a dictionary test. So what is a dictionary test and how are passwords cracked? This is a good segue to chase for a moment. Passwords are cracked when multiple attempts are made based off of a dictionary of known passwords. So a computer can generate, it's called a rainbow table. It will generate a bunch of passwords, and then it will test those passwords against a username. This is why we have lockout attempts, why we set the minimum lockout attempts, because the computer can try a lot of passwords quickly. So when you have a very long password, it will take the computer a very, very long time to get through all of the easy ones. And then as that password length grows, it takes it a lot longer because it's trying many, many more possibilities. So that's why those recommendations are there. They also say not to change passwords unless you have a reason to. If you think your password's been compromised, that's a good reason to change your password. But a lot of times we enact these policies that have a password change at 90 or 60 days. All it does is it leads us to bad password hygiene. What bad password hygiene means is that we add a 1 to the end of the password, or an extra 1, or a familiar number, and it just makes for a weak password. So that's why they recommend not to expire the passwords unless there is a reason to. One of the great recommendations that I also saw is to use software on the back end that will check passwords against known passwords. So anytime you change your password, it can go in and check a database of breached passwords and let you know if that password has been used in a breach before. The likelihood of a password that has been leaked to be upfront in a rainbow table when somebody is trying to hack into an account is much higher than a password that has not been breached. So that is one tactic that attackers can use to start hashing away at longer passwords by having them available up front. So that's why I recommend implementing some of those easy to implement policies that will help improve your password hygiene and help improve your posture and bring you up to speed with some of the new guidelines and guidance issued by the National Institutes of Standards and Technology. Finally, the last item I want to discuss in this week's Threat Landscape Update are remote access risks. And I understand it's really convenient to be able to remotely access things, but it's a very important conversation that you have internally about the risks and the rewards from it. So if you get a lot of value from it, then I recommend adding something like a VPN in front of your network to make sure and have a choke point and have a slowdown point where we can check access to your critical resources. It adds a step. A lot of times the way that looks in your networks is, for example, if you want to remote access cameras, we very, very strongly recommend against remote accessing cameras unless you allow us to put a VPN in front of it. So you know that you have to launch the VPN first, and then you can access the cameras. And so when adding those steps, yes, it's a little inconvenient, but it does a great deal of improvement to your overall security posture. It reduces your attack vectors and your attack surface for your network. And by the way, it will also help to go through your insurance applications if you ever have to fill out an application for cyber insurance. I did hear a little bit about cyber insurance today at the symposium. Our insurer, which is CRC, was present, and they were presenting on the new underwriting guidelines and new applications that are getting tougher. They're asking harder and harder questions. So this goes in line with what we discussed last week regarding insurance, and it was good to see that validation. So overall, the threat landscape still looks the same as last week. We still need to be aware. We still need to be on top of things. Recommend training your employees and making sure that they understand the risks associated with using technology. And if you need help with any of that, I'm more than happy to do it. Thanks again. Angel Rojas with DataCorps Technology Solutions, and have a blessed week.